The Canadian Children's Book Centre presents a Biblio-Video webinar. Accessible books for everyone.
Hi there, my name is Laura Brady. I'm an inclusive publishing expert and your host for today's webinar. We begin by acknowledging that though we're meeting virtually, we are all on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people for thousands of years. I'm in Caledon, which is located in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe Chippewa, and the Mississaugas of the Credit peoples. Caledon resides within Treaty 19, 1818. We endorse the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada and support an ongoing shift from gatekeeping to space-making in the book industry. During this webinar, I'll be interviewing educators and experts who work with accessible books every day. We'll also hear frank and unfiltered opinions from users of accessible books, and we'll explore the CCBC's new Accessible Books Bank and see how you can discover a treasure trove of Canadian titles in all kinds of accessible formats. Some of our panelists are with us for the live premiere on YouTube and will be answering questions in the live chat. Please interact with them. Use them. They're very smart, and you should ask them questions. They're here to help. I'll also occasionally be asking you questions using the poll function in the live chat. Please share your thoughts and experiences with us there. We'll also be running a contest to win a fantastic selection of Canadian books. The link will be in the video description, but you must watch to the end to hear a fun fact to use as your contest password. And now, let's take a moment to watch a short animated video about the importance of accessible books.
All kids should be able to find and read books they love. But not all kids can read all books because they might have something called a print disability. Kids with print disabilities need something special: accessible books. Accessible books open the world of reading to everyone. An accessible book can be print or electronic braille for kids who are blind or have low vision, audiobooks or described books for kids who can't hold a book or turn pages, e-books with special features kids can use for their reading needs, print books with colors and fonts designed for kids with learning disabilities. Canadian publishers are making books in all kinds of formats for all kinds of kids. Let's tell everyone about accessible books so kids everywhere can discover the joy of reading.
We know that a lot of educators increasingly rely on books in accessible formats to help readers. Tracy Hagan is a recently retired special education consultant with the Waterloo Region District School Board in Ontario. She's here to offer some of her insights with us. Welcome, Tracy. Tell us your thoughts on offering readers alternate formats in the classroom.
I think it's really important to embed that practice within our classroom, that practice of accessing alternative formats and creating and designing our lessons that says, hey, it is okay to use an audiobook for this activity, or you have choice. You can do an audiobook, or you can read it by yourself, or you can use this interactive book, or if you want it in, hard copy, just having that choice and normalizing that and then embedding that as classroom teachers, I think is key. When I was, again, an itinerant teacher, we didn't have those opportunities, but they are in front of us now. And interestingly, when we went through our COVID experience where we were learning from home, we had to put devices into the hands of all of our students, and we had to be accessing our learning experiences through technology. And it was interesting because when we returned to in-person learning, a lot of the vision itinerant teachers on our team and the ortho itinerant teachers said, wow, it's a whole new ballgame out there. We're going into classrooms now, and teachers have this knowledge and they have this experience and they have this comfort level with technology now, right? And so it is beginning to feel more equitable and inclusive. I left education at a very interesting time. As you're probably aware of, the right to read and that inquiry around students with print disabilities and their right to read, and what is a human right to be able to read, and the 157 recommendations that came out of that inquiry were very exciting. Not only does that inquiry force us to look at our instructional practices, it also talks specifically about the accommodations and the right to have those assistive technology and non-assistive technology accommodations for our students.
Right,
So,
right.
exciting times. I've always been a fierce advocate for that inclusive model, and that idea of the one size does not fit all.
Oh,
and give
yeah.
yourself permission as an educator to do that. That's okay. You're meeting the needs of your students when you do that.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of reframing the pandemic as a way that everybody had to level up their tech skills, and it made classrooms a lot more
Sure did.
inclusive as a result. That's really something. I love that. So what would you say to teachers and librarians about accessible books for young readers then, as a kind of way to finish off? What's the kind of final message about accessible content in the world?
I don't think there can be enough with different
Yeah.
formats, because as we were talking about, because each student has such unique learning profiles, and their learning needs are very, student specific. Having a variety of alternative formats that are easily accessible, especially for teachers. Like, I love this idea of the one-stop shopping, right? Where you can go and you can say, this is what I need, where can I find it? I know how much I gained from knowing and understanding about the Arrow resources, for example, and CELA, but not all educators know about that. And we really have to promote that out there, and working with your local libraries too, and the librarians within your school. Like, it's a collaboration, it's a group effort, and we have to be talking to one another and say, this is what I need. And hearing from those classroom teachers is key. Because, I'm an outside, like, I consider myself, as role of the consultant, I'm removed in a way. I'm not working directly with students. So getting that input from classroom teachers and talking with librarians and publishers, I think is really important.
Well, that's one of the reasons for this whole project that we're undertaking. We do hope to reach more teachers and librarians to tell them about what resources are available. We include links to them on our webpage, and we also are talking to publishers about how students with print disabilities need choice in reading materials. We need more accessible books out in the world, please. And now it's time for our first poll. If you are a teacher or a librarian, do you use accessible books with your students, or do you read accessible formats yourself? Tell us about that. A while back, we went to visit W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind in Brantford, Ontario, to see how some students there use technology to access books. You'll see in this next clip from the video that we made that Abby, who is fully blind, uses her cell phone and sound and touch to read. She's accessing a book called Skywolf's Call, a really well-made ebook from Anik Press.
Abby is fully blind and uses a cell phone for her reading. So her interaction with the phone is entirely through sound and touch.
For me, it's the audio settings because I'm a very audio-based person.
Text-to-speech compatibility. Ensuring that the text in the EPUB is compatible with screen reader software so that users can have the book read aloud to them. To read a book, Abby uses a screen reader app on her phone to convert all the information to sound.
See, I can go line by line if I want to.
To Eva Handor. Copyright signed 2020 to Eldon Yellow, Orne.
I can also have it play as an audio track if I want to.
Follow Heroes, the people of Fort Peck giving back as part of Indigenous knowledge. The Assiniboine and Sioux tribes on the Fort Peck Reservation of Montana are repaying the gift of the buffalo by helping to restore them to the Great Plains.
Paragraph.
I can go by paragraph, which means if there's an exact spot I want to, I bookmarked this page area where I heard this interesting point, but I want to go from paragraph so I can quote this properly. Our ways of viewing the world are different. one size fits all is not a thing, especially when it comes to accessibility.
Reader. Accessibility.
You can see more of our visit at W. Ross Macdonald in a full video on the Biblio Video playlist on YouTube. Now I want to take a minute to just talk about the difference between an accessible ebook and an inaccessible ebook. Some of the tools that publishers use get in the way of making a fully accessible ebook. An accessible ebook is one that's really thoughtfully made and is not sort of just dumped out of the box out of the tools that publishers use. So it's thoughtful in that it has image descriptions, it has some structure and hierarchy, and it has a really robust navigation so that it can be used in both a classroom setting and in a leisure setting for anyone who needs to read it. A really well-made ebook will have something called a page list so that students in a classroom setting can literally be on the same page while they're reading. And this is a feature and a requirement of a good accessible ebook. Let's take a closer look at another accessible format. Audiobooks can make a big impact on all students. Now we're going to hear from two educators about the use of audiobooks in the classroom.
Hello everyone, my name is Spencer Miller. I'm the Digital Media Coordinator for Biblio Video, and I'm also an educator. I love reading out loud with a classroom of students. I love doing voices, I love walking around the room, I love making little interjections. I feel like I put on a good performance, but while teaching classes all day, it can really wear out my voice. One time during a novel study, to give myself a break, I thought maybe I would put on a clip from the audiobook instead. I didn't want to deprive my students from my grand performance, so I decided to let them choose with a vote. And when I asked my class who would rather listen to an audiobook, every single hand in the room went up. I found out that my students love audiobooks. Understandably, they preferred the clarity of professional narration over my scratchy voice. I learned that some of my voices and interjections and asides were actually distractions while reading. My students reported that they found audiobooks calming, that it helped them to focus. Some preferred to read along in their books as they listened. Others liked to close their eyes and picture what was happening in their heads. Since then, I've discovered how much more you can do with audiobooks in the classroom. These days, Canadian publishers are doing some really cool things with audiobooks. You can find audiobook versions of dual language stories that support language revitalization, traditional legends, folklore, and storytelling that continue on the oral tradition, picture books that will get students singing and dancing, graphic novels with immersive backgrounds and soundscapes, nonfiction books that explore important history, and of course popular early reader, middle grade, and young adult fiction. When allowed to choose, many students prefer audiobooks. They are vital tools for students with print disabilities, and they can help open up the world of reading in new and exciting ways in your classroom. Let's hear more about audiobooks in action in the classroom from Nicole Wallace, a teacher on Vancouver Island.
For the last 3 years, I have been doing work with audiobooks because I love reading and I really want my students to like reading too. And so I have been wanting to find a way to get students more interested and engaged in reading. And personally, I listen to audiobooks. I love listening to them in the car, and I listen to them with my kids. And I wondered, were audiobooks possibly a way that I could get students interested in reading, where they didn't have to hold a physical book and they didn't have to feel like they had to work to listen to a story? Although this really started as how can I help students become readers? I just wanted students to like reading. And what it really turned into was an equity issue. I wanted students to like reading, but what I realized was that by using only traditional texts or stereotypical traditional alternatives, such as the high-low books or graphic novels, that we weren't meeting all students' needs, because there are a lot of students who are simply not capable of accessing texts at the same level as their peers. And I started wondering, why are we putting these roadblocks in front of them when we just want them to engage with books? we don't want them to turn off of reading and become non-readers for the rest of their lives because they've had these negative experiences. And so what it came down to for me was, what is the purpose of the reading experience? If the purpose of the reading experience is to enjoy reading, then why not offer an audiobook? If the purpose of the reading experience is to have a shared reading experience with peers where you have experienced the same book and you can have conversations and talk about the plot and talk about the characters and make connections, why not offer an audiobook? The only reason you would not offer an audiobook if the purpose of the reading experience is reading instruction or decoding instruction. Absolutely, that's when we should be using print, text only. However, if we are trying to have students enjoy reading and they're not capable of accessing that print text, why are we not giving them what they need to be on the same level as their peers? That's what equity is all about. So over the past few years, I've had a number of teachers collaborate on this project with me, and every teacher has come back with positive feedback. Every teacher said that they saw increased engagement in their students who listened to audiobooks. They had students who would never touch a book before become excited about silent reading time, and they couldn't wait. Can I get my tablet out? I really want to keep listening to my story. And students who would finish their work and want to get their tablet out again so that they could keep listening to their story. And so all reactions from teachers were just positive feedback. The students were engaged. The students were listening to stories. They were enjoying stories. The students who would never and had never finished a book all year long participated in their literature circle successfully, finished books successfully, and they felt proud of themselves and they were able to engage, and it became a positive experience for those students rather than another negative experience related to books for those students.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Spencer. Now, what do you think? We're going to launch another poll question, and it's about audiobooks. I know what I think, but I'm very curious to hear what the group here thinks. Do you consider audiobooks a legitimate form of reading? Now we're going to shift gears slightly and talk to Ruth Linka. Ruth is the Associate Publisher at Orca Books, a children's book publisher in Victoria, British Columbia. She's also the past chair of the board of the Association of Canadian Publishers and someone with a big stake in the health of accessible publishing in Canada.
For Orca, accessibility in different ways has always been a part of our mandate. We have a whole multiple series of books for high-low, for readers who are struggling with reading. So for us, this is a natural extension to make sure all readers have access to our books or access to books. So that's how we're going to sort of link it for ourselves. It's not so much about tooting our own horn as it is saying, this is what we believe that everyone should be able to read and have access to whatever books they want.
Yeah. I often tell publishers they're leaving 20% of their potential sales on the table by not doing the best they can around accessibility, because there's such a broad swath of the population that has learning disabilities or visual, perceptual reading issues, that not publishing accessibly means that you're just really ignoring a big chunk of your potential readership. And the business case feels to me very clear. From the publisher end, it may not feel as clear because it is a ton of work, right? It's rethinking how you almost your entire approach to publishing. And I do understand that. I mean, I say that kind of glibly, but I mean, I have worked in-house and have worked really hard with editorial and design and production and vendors and all that sort of thing.
Can we just talk about the business case for 1 second? And this would be something I'd rather not necessarily be, because I'm curious, we don't see the business case, frankly, for it yet. But there's lots of leaps we've taken in the past because we believe it's the right thing to do, and we hope this will pay off at some point. You say 20%. Do you
Mhm.
mean strictly for accessible or just all readers who have challenges?
All of the entire population at any given moment in time, about 20% experiences some form of a reading disability. And that could be temporary, situational, or it could be permanent.
Right,
The estimates of the number of people with dyslexia in any
right.
given population are as high as 20%. And
Yeah.
and so that may be, it may be more conservative to say something more like 15%, but once you layer on blind and low vision people,
Yeah.
in addition to other motor impairments or learning disabilities, then it's quite a substantive chunk of any potential readership.
And do you think that it is equally true for children as it is for adults?
Yeah, absolutely. In
Yeah.
fact, as children are learning to read, they need even more support
Yeah.
than I think the
Yeah.
average adult does. I think it's
Yeah.
potentially even more true.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and our print books, many of them have dyslexic friendly fonts and
mhm,
layouts and whatever else.
mhm.
So, like I said, natural next step.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay. Well, that's interesting. Like, you know, getting these books to market, having the market find them, all of these challenges I feel are not um, solved yet.
No, no.
Uh,
And that's
so,
where I hope the Accessible Books Bank can do some of the
yeah.
heavy lifting for Canadian publishers, that to make it a little bit easier for people to find them. Thanks so much, Ruth, both for the work you and that other publishers are doing to make books accessible. And now for the main event. This is going to be fun. I am so pleased to introduce you all to the Canadian Children Book Centre's Accessible Books Bank. The Accessible Books Bank is a discovery tool or online catalog designed to help you find Canadian books for kids and teens in accessible formats. It is the only service in Canada that allows readers, educators, librarians, families, and the general public to find Canadian books in accessible formats all in one place. Browse books from Canadian authors and illustrators that are available as ebooks, audiobooks, large print braille, and other formats. You can also use search and filter options to find books by title, theme, grade level, format, and more. You'll find hundreds of titles in English, French, and some Indigenous languages, from picture books to YA novels, nonfiction, graphic novels, and more. You might also read reviews, watch videos, and supplementary content. And finally, you can also purchase books through links to retailers and wholesalers. Let's watch as Muhammad Ali and Trish Osach introduce us to the Accessible Books Bank and show us how it can be navigated on a web browser for both readers with and without print disabilities.
Hello everybody, my name is Muhammad Ali, and today I will be demoing for you the Accessible Books Bank from the CCBC using a screen reader. A screen reader is a tool used by visually impaired and blind users to select content on the screen, click on links, and navigate web pages. For you, I will be demoing finding books, buying books, and playing videos from our Accessible Books Bank. And now we will demo finding a book, clicking into it, and making a purchase. So we will start by finding the search section of the Accessible Books Bank.
Link F8 for more in blank. Search edit. Search blank.
And here we want to look for the Paperback Princess. So we just need to type in paperback. Oops. Which should generate the search results. And now we will go down to the search results.
Filters heading, let results heading, sort the result combo box, collect visited link the paper.
And there it is. So we'll click into it.
The paper.
All right, so that has loaded. So now we explore this page.
The Paperback Princess Early Reader heading level 1. Link Robert Munsch. Link Michael Marchenko.
So Robert Munsch, the author.
See link Michael Marchenko.
Michael Marchenko is the illustrator. So that looks accessible. So we just keep going past here.
See Munch Early Readers. Type. Fiction. Category. Fairy tales and folklore. Theme. General. Language. English. Publisher. Anic Press. Grade level 1-3. Age range 6-8.
So that's a whole lot of information. talking about the age range, the genre, the grade level, and pretty much any information that you would ever need to know about a book, so you know what you're getting. And that's all pretty accessible. So now we will get into where to buy these books. Now there's two sections here. There's the print edition, which these cover.
Shop local button.
Shop local.
Link buy at Amazon. Link buy at Indigo.
Amazon and Indigo. And we want to go to the format section and specifically look for audio. So we'll do that now. So here's the format section.
Hardback button.
So we have hardback
Audiobook
and
button. Collect.
audiobooks. So we will click on audiobooks to expand it.
Expand. ISBN 13 audiobook. Publication price 19 Canadian Audible button.
And now we're on the Audible button. So we'll click on the Audible button to open that up in Audible.
Loading page. The paperback Princess by Robert Allard. Price at
And now we're on the Audible page where you can purchase the book. And now we will show the rich content available on a book title. For this one, we'll be using a book called Barani by Michelle Ketterusman. And we'll just keep moving down the page here.
link heading level 2 description. From the Governor General's Award-nominated author of Music for Tigers and Girl of the Southern Sea, a passionate story about environmental activism.
So now we will go down to
The young heading level 2
contributors.
Michelle Ketterusman. Expanded. Barani Seas.
And as you heard there, it said expanded, which will tell you that her information should now be available.
Michelle Ketterusman grew up in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay, and that concludes the author bio, in case the reader may be interested in that. And now we will go down to
Heading level 2 formats.
formats. So this is a very important section, and we'll navigate through here.
Hardback.
So there's hardback, in case that might be of interest. EPUB,
Paperback, softback.
paperback.
Heading level 2 biblio-video.
And now we are in the section with the video that pertains to this book.
Seek slide.
Canadian Children's Book Center presents Accessibook.
Michelle Ketterusman is an award-winning author.
And this is the video that pertains to this title. Okay, so let's see if we can find books which are audiobooks. So we will look for that search criteria under formats.
Format.
Here we go.
Format. Combo box collapsed select. Book bank.
So now we're in the combo box and we want to look for audio.
Format list box. Audiobook 1 of 13.
Here it is.
Format.
So after we have found audio in the format combo box, we want to go down to the search results. And these are the first 3 search results. And the last thing we'll look at is the FAQ for the Accessible Books Bank. So we will click into it here.
Bookbank CCBC. Visited link FAQ page. Loading page. Bookbank CC. Frequently asked questions heading level 1. What is the Accessible Books Bank? Button collapsed.
And this is the first one.
Expanded. Book.
So if you want to get information on the Accessible Books Bank, feel free to navigate through these FAQ.
Hello everyone, welcome to the CCBC's Accessible Books Bank. Right now we're looking at the homepage of the bank where you can read a little bit more information about what it is and check out the FAQ page for more detailed information and answers to most questions that you might have. And let's take a look over here at how we can access books that we're looking for. So we can search by the name of the author illustrator, a category that interests us, description. We can even get as specific as an ISBN, a publisher, series, theme, and title, or even just search for a keyword that interests you here. You can also access titles via the filter section, so by selecting a grade level, fiction or nonfiction, category, format, language, and so on. So let's take a look at the language drop-down. I'm interested to see what books are available in the Ojibwe language, and we have a couple of choices here. Let's take a look at this one. Beautiful title from Groundwood Books. So here we can see that we have lots of info about the book available, the cover, the authors and illustrators, the categories the book fits into, grade level, age range, links to purchase, full description, including some curriculum links here, bios of the contributors, and then we have additional formats that are available here, including a Braille edition, which is available to purchase directly through Groundwood Books. And we have a video that's relevant that talks about the book, awards, and so on. So if I'm interested in finding more books that are, for example, about nature and the natural world, I would just need to click here and a new list pops up here. So lots of options and ways to explore titles within the Books Bank to find what you might be looking for.
Alongside the Accessible Books Bank, we're also creating videos about accessible books on Biblio-Video. Look for our Accessible Books playlist on the channel and our special series called Accessibook. You can also read reviews of accessible books in the Canadian Children's Book News magazine and read a monthly column by writers with lived experience in the CCBC newsletter. Please help us now with our final poll. Would you like to see a universal symbol to identify books in accessible formats? We're so happy you could join us today to explore this important topic, and we'll hope you'll join the growing movement of people advocating for more and better accessible books for our kids. We're going to end with some thoughts from some of the authors, illustrators, and users who are part of that movement.
Personally, I use accessible books because I was born with a muscular dystrophy that has gotten worse over time. So my muscles can get weak pretty easily, and sometimes picking up those heavy YA books that I love to read is just too much.
These new formats that are accessible to practically everyone, I think it's a wonderful development.
I love that my books are becoming available in accessible formats. It's hugely important to me to know that all children have the same access to the books that they choose to read. I'm very grateful to all of the organizations and individuals who work to make it possible.
I feel really excited and honored that our book has been transformed into a format that more children and more families can access the story. Accessibility is hugely important. We need to be able to meet children and their families where they're at and celebrate the gifts that they have. And so, it's really special to me then to know that this book is being transformed into a way that can take the story into places that I didn't quite imagine at first, but I'm definitely grateful it got there.
It feels amazing to know that there are children who are enjoying our stories, who are finding some success at reading and wanting to read, building some confidence and building their reading skills because they're reading stories that we created and we wrote. It's actually a really, really amazing feeling.
It's really important that the information gets out to absolutely everybody, not just certain people with certain abilities. So it's fantastic. I think publishers should be doing this more and more often.
Yeah, unfortunately, being blind is complicated. That's our entire lives.
Thank you to all of our panelists for taking the time to share today, and thank you to you for watching. To enter our contest, think back to Mohammed's demo. The password is the name of the author of one of the books that he was demonstrating. So here's a hint. The main character is wearing a paper bag. Your feedback is really important to us. Please share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments and look out for a survey. Many thanks to the Government of Canada for supporting this project, and we'll see you next time.
Let's tell everyone about accessible books so that kids everywhere can discover the joy of reading.